So let it be written, so let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors, and we're going to build an encounter. And we're going to do this in real time. And this is going to be the deep dive. If you have seen the quick tips video, you'll see that we're going to give you this encounter that you can run, but this is going to be how we're going to make the sausage here. So, all right, so we are going to build this encounter. We have chosen a few elements beforehand just to get started, but have not really done any formal preparation. So, Jeff, what is the concept for this encounter that we're going to be building?
Yeah, so I'm always a big fan of these sort of I guess what you call dinner with the enemy sorts of situations where basically you're in a place where you can't, for whatever reason, you can't fight right now, but this person is very clearly an enemy that you want to fight and maybe will fight as soon as you can get out of this place where you can't fight. And you basically have a rare moment where you can just have a conversation with somebody who you would normally be immediately hostile with, which I think can always lead to very interesting endpoints that you would never get of being able to ask a question to the enemy of why are you doing this? What are you trying to do? What are we going to do? Kind of where do we go from here? Sorts of conversations that can be super, super fascinating. So that's kind of my initial point of you're in a place where you can't fight right now, but you will fight soon, talking with an enemy, however that manifests.
That's perfect. Yeah. And so for the encounter type, which is the second thing we decided, I wanted to do high tension role play. And then like you're saying, it's that ends in combat. I want the combat to be inevitable, but there has to be some sort of role play element, like you say. And that was interesting to me. So that's the encounter type. It's going to be a role play with a combat kind of tacked on at the end. James, what is the location? If we were going to map this out, what sort of place is this going to take place in?
So I see it taking place in sort of a fairly large city's port district. So the dinner, this conversation would probably be happening in a fairly large sort of corporate trader, think East India Trading Company kind of thing. Maybe the bad guy is a higher up of a corrupt company that's, who knows, buying and selling a specific race of slaves. Basically, we are in a hoity-toity fancy part of what is usually a very seedy part of town, having this conversation. And conceivably, if we spill out into the streets, there will be a lot going on and a lot of, the dock district to fight in.
Love it. All right, cool. So, Jeff, in terms of this dinner with the enemy, are you imagining it as it being an actual dinner, like a meal or some sort of ceremony, or is it much more informal?
I don't think it necessarily has to be anything like that. I just basically it needs to be a place so that there's a reason that we're not fighting right now, basically. So whatever sort of event that is, and maybe it's just the fact that this part of the docks are very well guarded by law enforcement or whatever. So if you start a fight right now, it'll immediately get shut down. And because you're starting a fight in the city, you're technically responsible and they can arrest you or whatever, that's going to be. I think it can be interesting if there is some sort of event to frame it around. So if we want to find something that's happening right now that you can kind of have be the backdrop, I'm definitely open to that, whether that is a literal dinner where the party is at a table with this person eating, or if it's some sort of event or some reason for them to be here.
Yeah, I dig that. So what popped into my mind that seemed like it would work for what you just said, and then also James's idea, is essentially this is the day, there's one day a month where all of the ships have to have inspection and their goods and all that stuff and their manifests. So the city guards, it's an all-day affair, and these different teams literally go through the boats and check for contraband and all this other stuff or something like that. So there are guards everywhere. And they're busy and they're doing their thing, but they're occupied. So you can't fight because they would all just turn on you and throw you in jail, immediately. Something like that. Does that something like that work? Like an event?
Yeah, or even not necessarily, because again, this is probably too fine grained to spend too much time on. But like, if it's the same day every year, you could like, or every month, you could like plan. So it could even just be like that. Maybe it's even like the party has gone to this person's ship to confront them, and then suddenly, boom, surprise! Inspection time. The entire guard shows up across the docks. All the ships get locked down. So they're kind of you've gone there to meet with this person, probably with the intention to like immediately fight. And then as you're approaching, suddenly it's like this firestorm of guard activity happens, So yeah, basically the same, exactly what you said, but instead of it being planned, have it be a surprise.
I love that.
And I can also see, depending on whether or not it is really a dinner, right? So, and this will be more for my encounter and maybe not everybody that's using this, but something like you went there to confront them and they were eating, this nice meal that they had prepared by their personal chef. And then all the guards show up, and the classic bad evil guy thing to say is, well, we're all stuck here, so why don't you join me? You know what I mean? And you get to sit down. Yeah. If it is a meal, you get to sit down at this thing while potentially guards are coming in and out. Maybe, it's just, you need to make this look as low key as possible until, like you said, everybody's gone or whatever ends up happening.
I love that. That's actually really cool.
No, that's great. Especially because it just kind of, it gives them a reason to like sit at the table with this enemy of theirs, because it's like, well, if you just stand there and look menacingly at me, all these guards are going to start asking us very uncomfortable questions. Just come sit and eat, so we don't have to make a scene for them, Plus, it's I think it's always very sort of, it's so easy for like enemies to just immediately be like, oh, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, this is the end, the beginning of my great plan or whatever. And it's just, I think having the opportunity to just like have that like cordial moment between people who are enemies, especially if it's like sort of circumstantial enemies, where it's just like, I'm a part of this group, that you're a part of that group, and those groups are fighting. Like, I don't necessarily have beef with you specifically. We're just kind of enemies by design. But we have this reason. So, we can't fight right now. So we might as well talk, or might as well eat. Might as well do something.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's a really clever way to put it, is like you say, it's like you have to sit down and eat, or else it's going to look really suspicious that you're thumbing your dagger there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw out some specifics so that we can start firming this up and bringing it into like, okay, so what's the encounter, the actual, so I have an NPC. I have Bryn Wilson is the female lead investigator, or like captain of the guard, like head auditor, whatever you want to call it. And so, and then I have Raleigh Marlowe. Sounded like a real scummy, like captainy, like, the guy you're talking about, James, the hoity-toity. So, and then you have the party. Now, is the party going there to have beef with Raleigh? That's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah, so I imagine that there's some sort of rivalry there, specifically, of like whether this is like specifically someone who's already been antagonizing the party that they're finally going to deal with in person, or like the second in command of the guy that they're ultimately fighting. Some reason where it's obvious that they're enemies, and there's obvious that there's going to be a confrontation. And then there's kind of this disruption of that. So someone who's antagonistic to the party in some way that the party knows about and is going there on purpose.
Got it. And
because I could see like high level enforcer of the people is bad, or just on the payroll even. You know what I mean? Of like, no, you're doing the stuff for the bad guy, and he's like, yeah, it's business. I just imagine him eat this, whatever, like some sort of I don't know, fancily cooked bird. I imagine French cuisine. I know that's taking it too far, but
no, that's
I imagine
fine.
Very fancy French cuisine. And but specifically that it's almost like a guy on the payroll who's all business. Like, Raleigh Marlowe is like, no, yeah, I smuggle this, I do that, I whatever, but why do you care? And the party probably cares for some other, potentially unrelated reason, or it doesn't have to be circumstantial,
sure,
but especially that makes a sit down.
This dude has his finger in a lot of different pies, so you can probably tie it to the party in various ways. So
yeah, and I also love the classic, who are you? The bad guy, like, I don't even know who you are. What, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
So, I'm going to make it, you wanted it to be a bird. I'm going to call it High Feather Pheasant is the name of the meal. And so he's prepared because especially I can imagine putting those words in the NPC's mouth. He's like, will you join me for some high feather pheasant? There's just enough like sort of smarmy alliteration in there for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Excellent. So one of the things I like to do is put voice lines. So like I like to give the NPCs something to say or an opener. Let's work on what Bryn Wilson, the head auditor, what would she say, or like just, and this doesn't have to literally be the first thing that she says, but it is like a characterization of the kind of things that she says. So like, what would that be? What's something that she would say? Like, what kind of personality does she have?
So if it's like a surprise inspection, then I imagine there's probably a level to it where it's like serious but routine. Like we have to do this, we have to look carefully, but also it's just yet another day of inspection. Like inspecting is like such a tedious thing that I imagine that there's some level of drudgery to it. Of like, well, we just have to do this because it's the law that, we inspect the ship sometimes. You know what we have to do. We know what we have to do. Please don't cause any problems. Just like, let's not make this a thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I can also see a level of a little too by the book where it's like this person knows that people are getting away with stuff, but she has to catch it legally. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's like, well, we're doing the inspection, but the people at these docks are smart enough to know. They know all the ways to get around us. So we kind of have to do this and we hope we catch them, but really like they don't expect to find anything. Like you said, a level of tedium that's like, oh, okay, we're going to the place with the guy who we know is doing illegal stuff. We just can't prove it.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's almost like a jaded, a little bit jaded in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So what I put is, I'm just putting a brief description. So I put dutiful, by the book, but to some degree going through the motions, jaded. Awesome. Now, Raleigh Marlowe, we already kind of figured out what his deal was, where it's like lieutenant sort of on the payroll of a big bad. So if you're cool with it, I want to give him just one unique identifier, whether it's he wears weird animal skins or he collect like something that I can kind of sink my teeth into as a game master to highlight to make this person stand out. What are we thinking? Something to push him away from the trope of smarmy captain. Like, what's that extra sauce we're going to put on there?
So, especially in other settings, I think this could play really well. But I'm imagining, like, powdered wig, Jacobean ruffle, kind of like way, way, way overdressed, whatever that means for your world. Like, so, but that's just them. You know what I mean? The nicest, best looking, but almost like, ruffles around them. Just especially what we look at as ridiculous. I'm really kind of latching on to the high feather pheasant thing. Like, no, man, I make my money and I spend it,
Yeah. Or even you could get into like, ridiculously garish colors where like, it's like, bright red and like neon green, whatever, crazy, color combination.
I love
he's
that.
Not hiding in a crowd.
It's very clearly like ugly in like an aesthetic sense, but also like a flex on like I can afford this amazingly bright, vivid, over the top clothing like it's nothing, Yeah,
I see it supporting to some degree. He does his business out in the open, like his illegal stuff. Again, flaunts it. You know what I mean? He's constantly like,
sure.
Look at
he
me.
knows
I'm not
that
hiding.
he has to get caught, so
Exactly.
he can sort of be overt with how he looks and how he acts, knowing that there's not the proof, there to lock him up for it.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be kind of moving into the inevitable combat side of things too. Is I like the idea of there being like this incredibly stark contrast of like him being extremely polite and in this like garish fancy attire, and then they'll have like a couple other people who are just like very obviously brute thugs, you know,
Yeah.
of just like, there's him in his extremely fancy, you know, formal attire, these bright colors. And then he has like the two guys on either side of him that are just like complete like brown, you know, standard, you know, leather with just like scars across their faces and like swords at their side, you know, whatever the specific, you know, effect of it. Of just like, when we fight, I got my boys right here who are gonna give you.
It's like a literal embodiment of the confidence he exudes. Like, no, I can be this confident. Look at this big guy.
So what would be fun for me is to give them job titles that they obviously aren't. Like, if he calls them,
this is my chef.
Yeah, exactly. Like and it's like, this is my accountant and this is my chef, and it's like, what?
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So
the other thing is, it seems like there needs to be a really good reason that one of the players couldn't kill Marlowe outright.
Well, because
you know what I mean?
There's
like,
a guard right there. Bryn Wilson
and that's what I mean. That's fair.
There's 10 guards in the room. Yeah.
But that's the part in the movie where the one guy would jump on him and slit his throat quickly and then get jumped on and get arrested. And maybe we don't need to worry about that.
We can't. If the players want that to be their game, like that, listen, bud.
Well, I think part of that is the benefit of having there be like, he's not the only enemy in this room. That he has 3 to 4, you know, guys around in the room. Of, you know, there's the 2 thugs right next to him, and then there's the guy in the back or whatever with the bow on the counter or whatever, who's like, if you jump at me, these guys are going to get in the way, they're going to stop you, and the guards are going to arrest you. Like, you can't kill me in one hit, because I have buddies here who will, for one, keep me from getting killed now, and 2, are going to kill you in 10 minutes when these guards leave.
Exactly. I guess that works, because I had that thought before we talked about the guards. Or not the guards, his bodyguards specifically, because that's what it is. It's like, oh, you could go for me, but these guys are trained to stop you. Then you'd be arrested. We'd be in the right, and my chef saved my life. You know what I mean? So no, that's perfect.
Yep.
Just anything like that, where in this case that stands in. Basically, I needed to make sure we had something that changed, so that then the fight would start. You know what I mean? Like an anti-magic field or taking away their weapons, but guards being there is just.
I do have an idea. Excuse me. So I'm pulling together some things we've discussed, and I'm maybe retconning some stuff, or at least I'm using the way I'm understanding things. The more we talk about this, and this could be assumed, the more I think this should actually take place on the boat. Like, I think.
I feel like we shifted to that.
Cool. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify 100%. So here's how I see it. I'm doing it in terms of phases, and I think that this would be interesting. I think phase 1 is the entry of all parties. So, like, the players come in, and then right afterward, the guards come in, surprise. And I think it should literally be a surprise. Like, the players really go there thinking that they're starting a beef and that they're ready for combat, you know, whatever. And then the guards enter. Phase 2, I think it would be really interesting if the ship leaves the dock, but Marlowe pretends that it is a mistake. Or like, oh no, so basically taking the fight off. He sneakily gets his henchmen to essentially untether the ship and make it float, not far, but
if the guards are on the ship, and that's what's stopping the fight, he's bringing the guards with him.
I think that he's bringing the guards with him because, I'm trying to think of. Here's where I'm at. I think it would be interesting if the boat was on the water and not on the dock, as an interesting escalation to happen. I don't have a reason why. And if it's too weird, we can kill it.
Well, I think.
So my worry is that the only thing stopping the fight is that the guards are here. And if he brings the guards with them, then the guards don't leave. And then the fight never happens, because the guards will still be there. You know, there will still be 50 guards on the boat forever. Until you get back to the dock and they can leave.
I see.
But I think you can achieve the same thing by there being a point in the battle. Because we talked about a role play that culminates in a battle, but it sounds like we're going to talk about both. I think there's no reason there couldn't be a point in the battle that, to keep his advantage, if there is one, the boat gets untethered while you're fighting. Because I'm like, well, now there's no escape for you.
That is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're right that in my head, and I just, I whitewashed the wrong thing of like, oh, the guards are going to be in the fight. But no.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
no.
But no, that's not. So,
No.
Because now he's committing a crime.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
entry of all parties. Phase 2 is the guards leave, maybe. I'm writing down what happens.
Phase 2 is the conversation with him while the guards are around.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like coming in and out and yeah.
Yeah, okay, like have a seat at the table. Let's chat, might as well. We have nothing better to do. And then, and we have to look inconspicuous while the guards are here. We have to act like you came here for business and we're just having a conversation as friends or as business partners or whatever.
Pretending.
So,
yeah.
Act busy while the guards are here.
Yep. Pretending
Exactly. And it gives a good reason to ask for the him to ask the party questions or the party to ask them questions that, like you said earlier, Jeff, you would never get to have that conversation with that person. Where again, the way I see it is in the movie, they're like, don't you understand you're killing all these people? And he has his crazy messed up reason that that's okay for him. It's like that moment.
And then I'm going to put a note here too that says, speak, have guards enter and leave, so that you have to switch into code speak and like you can't outright talk about crime and murder. You have to use creative sort of like, so how's your mother?
Yeah.
Have guards enter and exit.
Well, and you also get that silence of, when the waiter walks up right when you're saying something is not as personal. It's that same thing where you're like, and then you kill, wait for the guard to walk by. It's that awkward silence where the guard's like, the hell are you guys talking about?
Mm.
All right, cool.
Yep. And then the guards finish their inspection whenever is narratively convenient for the conversation to reach that point.
Yep.
And then the guards leave, get off the ship, and then it's like, okay, shink, the swords come out. Everybody stands up and knocks the benches over, and it's like, okay, no one's here to get in the way anymore.
No, that's fantastic. All right, so then combat starts, and then I think what we can do is we'll be in a good spot. I would like to get at least rough blocking of what the threats are and sort of talk. We don't have to get too granular, but talk about how many exact accountants and chefs are there, sort of like maybe even, give them the unique, like the chef has a cleaver and the accountant has this unique sword. Just kind of rough them out real quick. So how many, aside from Raleigh, how many people are we thinking are in this boat for this fight? Roughly.
I was thinking like probably 3 to 4 in the room, like when the fight starts.
Okay.
Just so you can get a little bit of like variety. So you have like, him and then like 2 like just big brutish people who will just be like attack you with melee weapons, right away sort of thing. Maybe a guy with ranged attacks, maybe even like a guy with some like very light magic sort of stuff. There's the guy who wears the priest's clothes because it makes him look, friendly and accommodating, but he's actually a warlock or a wizard or something, and whatever weird specific thing that we want it to be. Just to kind of also sell that illusion of like, no, these are just my chef and my accountant and my my clergyman who keeps us on the straight and narrow.
I love that. Clergy warlock is rad.
Okay. The other thing is it's not quite people, but I imagine that the fact that you were able to walk in means that he has some advantage taking a fight in this area. Obviously there's people. So I think we should also consider what things would be advantageous. It's not the kind of thing that you could do like, and a booby trap makes you fall through the floor because it is still a boat, So basically I think that's something we can lean on a little bit for the combat, but I don't have any ideas. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Sure.
That it would be like and he keeps a gun under the table, from the movie where it's like, oh yeah, he's not armed, but at this reach he has this, or he presses a button and it locks it down or whatever,
Yeah, I think we could talk about some of the boat set dressing and talk about how that could be used that way. So things like netting and like it wouldn't be a trap per se, but this isn't the first time that they fought somebody in the decks of this. Like he's there eating on purpose.
Exactly.
So I don't know if we want to do like, I'm trying to think of something that would be realistic. that would be like, I don't know.
And I mean, there is also the other angle to take with this of like, that maybe they weren't ready for this. Like to them, they were just here, and then this inspection happens, and it's just like, normally they would want to be a lot more careful about how they planned it. So there is also always the option of like that they weren't ready for this either, that they're kind of improvising,
Sure.
We don't have to go down that road,
absolutely.
especially if we want that environmental effect to be part of the encounter. But it is at least something that can be on the table. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it, Jeff, because to some degree, I don't know how cognizant we want to be of this, but it's a little more broadly applicable. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, if we came up with a bunch of cool mechanisms on the ship, then that NPC has to have that, where I'm like, yeah, no, I think it works that it's cooler that he's playing it cool, but this wasn't what he expected. He's going to try to get the most advantage he can. That's, untethering the boat, maybe other things like that. But I really like that idea that it's like, well, no, I didn't plan on it, but I am going to finish my meal before we start this.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, cool. So what I have so then what we'll put is they are unprepared as well.
I presume they're like in some sense, like they'll have weapons on them.
Yeah. So
but not in the sense that they don't have like a trap set. It's just like, we were here at port trying to get our business done. The guards are here now. These other random guys, we don't even know who they are here asking us questions. So like, be on guard, be ready. But like, they don't have like this big like, and then we pull the lever, and
No, that's perfect. So the final thing that I think will help is to I have Raleigh, Brute 1 and Brute 2 ranged, and then Clergy Warlock. And so if we can just put a couple of details about them each, so we kind of have. So I made a note for Raleigh. I don't know how you guys feel about this, especially for the tech level of the setting. I put that he has one of those sleeve pistols that he'll use if he's cornered. The pistol that comes out of the sleeve, shoot somebody in the face. Like, it's very, that's very specific, and there's a tech level there. But I think it fits the powdered. Like, even if it's a thing he had made for him, or if it's a dart,
I think you can even get away with some sort of hidden, spring-loaded weapon.
Yeah, like
I think is fair, because I'm like, even if that was a dagger, even if it was like a fantasy thing,
it's probably got some poison or curse or whatever on it too.
Exactly,
because he's that trickery.
I love it, and I put, he's the last to fight, but calls out orders. Like, he's not he's not trying to get his clothes dirty.
Exactly. If everybody else around him can handle it, he prefers that. But yes, when cornered, out comes his cursed poison knife, whatever.
Yep, love it.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
I was gonna say for Brute 1 and Brute 2, I'm like, this is like just going ham on it.
Go.
I imagine two very big twins. They don't say much, and their faces look like they box. Like, just not like they're bruised, but just they've got like big fat like lips and like
cauliflower
big
ear.
brow.
It's very clear that this is not their first rodeo. Yeah,
exactly. And then you can even do like the chef, depending on how much they lean on that, is wearing like a butcher's apron, so a leather apron, but it's got like, he's got like a tool belt of knives.
There's a lot of inconspicuous blood on it.
Exactly.
Of an unknown source.
Yeah.
I love that. So what if we make one the chef and one I said accountant, but I feel like it should be a complementary, because your accountant wouldn't be there all the time. So like, chef and something ridiculous like a gardener, but like for the ocean. Like, what is it?
Or even just like,
servant.
To kind of complement the chef thing, like, the bellboy or the waiter or whatever.
Yeah, like a waiter.
A waiter. Yep.
Yeah,
I love it.
But he's also got like a cutlass or something like there, where it's like obviously that he's like not just that.
I love that. All right, perfect. So then one is the waiter. Now I think it also would be interesting if he has like a waistcoat or something. Like, if the chef has looks like a chef, I think the waiter should have some sort of a dingy, worn like black overcoat, like something that looks like he's a waiter.
It's got like slice marks in parts of it. Like,
Well, and I also imagined it over like, I think this is the word I want to use, but like a leather, basically a leather shirt, like a leather gambeson, almost like it's very clear he's wearing a bulletproof vest under this. Then it doesn't.
Yeah.
So he's just wearing like leather, studded
it's
leather
like part
armor
open and the armor is under the coat.
I love that. So
exactly. And it's like, there's nothing illegal about it,
serving
but
coat.
well, most bellboys were, waiters wouldn't be wearing, full armor.
Yeah. So serving coat, a top. I'm going to put bulletproof vest in quotes. Just because sometimes having that is just like clearer than coming up with the exact armor. So
yeah, exactly.
Brute 1, waiter. Okay, Brute chef wearing butcher's apron, lots of blood, and a bunch of knives. Now I put for the ranged Jeff, I put ranged, and then in parentheses I put super nice crossbow, famous named weapon ? Like maybe it's actually some sort of a, like, oh, it's the famous crossbow of blah, 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 or whatever. Like some sort of thing where it's like a notable thing. I don't have anything about the person, though.
Yeah, I'm definitely down with the... I like to imagine, too, that like whatever the weapon is named or whoever the owner is famous for having it, like it's not this guy. Like he killed that guy and took it, sort of thing.
That's what I'm thinking, too.
And it's just, it's very obvious, like he's that he's bad news, basically, and has taken this famous weapon from some other known warrior. I imagine, too, like, it's the guy that, like, they don't even necessarily try to hide, necessarily, that he's, like, obviously just there as weaponry.
Yeah.
It's like, he doesn't have the disguise. He's just like, nope.
And I think,
I'm the bodyguard.
I love that.
And, like, it would make sense for a ship, even merchant ships to have guards. So, like, I think that there is some level where he doesn't necessarily even have to hide or try to hide. It's just like, yep, I have armor. I have my crossbow. I'm here to make sure nothing bad happens, And you can tell that to the guards and have it be okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfectly reasonable for there to be an armed guard.
Sure. And I think let's make her female. And then what's something unique about her? Maybe and it doesn't have to be appearance-wise, but like everything you say is I love it. So what's that one little piece of mustard of like, oh, this has the players thinking like, who's this person or why are they there? Is it, I guess the crossbow.
Maybe they have some, the crossbow for sure. And maybe they have some logo that's associated with a certain faction or something on their armor. But there's some sort of tie-in of like, this group doing this is affiliated in some way with insert known faction here. It's like, wait, why is one of them on this ship?
Yeah, and
on their side.
Bonus points if it's a little different because the guards are there, but I'm imagining the dirty cop, right? So I'm like, maybe not that obvious where the guards walking in wouldn't go, hey, you're a dirty cop, but it's suspected, right? Everything's above board. But basically, it's like, no, if you're working with this guy, what we know about him that he allegedly does, you're probably not that good either, kind of thing.
So can we make it so that the guards inspecting the city are like the local police, but her role would be like a sheriff? So not literally, but like state level.
Separate things.
Not city level.
Yeah, exactly.
Like these guards work for the mayor or whatever. And she has the emblem of the kingdom or something, like, or whatever the equivalent would be. So it's like not necessarily outranking them, but the jurisdiction is bigger or something. I don't know if that's too deep.
Yeah.
It might be a little too like obvious, where it's like clearly like corrupt cop level thing. So I think like something like that, but maybe just like one step removed, where it's like this faction, the faction that she has the emblem of, works with that group, with the sort of sheriff level group as like extra hired investigator, something like that, where it's like you can start to draw that connection, but it's not so obvious as like, I'm the sheriff and I'm helping them. You can't do anything because I'm, that level.
Oh yeah, because I see
that's
what you mean.
Actually
like,
really good. You don't want to,
I didn't, and I guess that's the main thing is what I want is specifically what you said, Tim, that the players look and go, oh my God, the broken hand has something to do with this because one of their enforcers is here. Yeah. They're not law, so they can't go, well, I can arrest you. But they can, it's like, oh, they're tied up in this too is kind of the thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, rad. And then the final thing that I had was for the clergy warlock dressed as the priest. I had it that he acts nice and sort of plays dumb. So it's not like sadistic. I don't know how you feel about that, but I thought it'd be really interesting if it was like, oh, no, certainly you wouldn't. And then he's like doing witch bolt and like, but making it look like he's not doing anything and like whammying stuff and, you know, I don't know, really scummy, like, you know.
Yeah.
Or like his entire act is like looking and acting priestly to deflect suspicion of like, like it's like the you wouldn't part an old man from his walking stick in Lord of the Rings, where it's just like like.
I love that.
You know, he's found those little things that he can say and do to be like, no, I'm just here to preach the good word alongside my merchant friends to keep them on the straight path. Like you wouldn't do anything, and it's just like, and then you know, that he, the second that you're like, I don't know, you seem suspicious. Like, well, okay, screw it. Like, throws a lightning bolt at you or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
I don't know if you can. This might be getting too specific. This is what I would do.
Insight.
There'd be like a perception check to notice like a prison tattoo kind of creeping out of his, you know, like collar or something. Like something that's like, oh, obviously you killed the man because you got the whatever scar kind of thing.
If questioned, he talks about his sins from a darker time, from a former life or something like that. You know, like
and he would definitely have a story of like, yes, but I used to be that, and then I found the new way, and I've changed and tried to atone for my past sins, and it's just like no one's buying it, but he, you know, is saying it anyways.
Love it. Cool. And then I'm gonna just put says, screw it, and zaps witch bolt. So I think we have our phases. We have phase 1, 2, and 3. We have the enemies, and then kind of our rough, you know, story. So is there anything else we absolutely need that's mission critical that we can't explain when we piece everything together, you know, to deliver the encounter for everyone?
I think it's in a pretty good spot. Like, I would probably, like, if I were to actually put this in a game, I would name the goons too. We don't have to do that right now.
I was going to say, let's do that during the week. And then we can just, like, you know, when we present the quick tips, we can say, hey, we named them and polished this up a bit, you know. Like, there can be an off-screen, you know, polishing where we,
Yeah, and exactly.
It probably would help to do a quick recap as well. Sorry, James, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just agreeing. I think that the rest, there's nothing I can think of that's not details that we can fill in, you know, during the week as well as just do, you know, next time.
Killer.
Yeah. So we probably should recap here too as well in this video.
You want to handle that, Jeff?
Here. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, you're very good at that, I think.
Well, I guess just to kind of recap everything that we have here and try to put a bow on it to wrap things up here. So the basic kind of gist, the party has, through whatever means, come into information that this enemy enforcer is at the docks on this certain ship, and that they need to go there to confront that person, specifically knowing that you need to probably kill them, at the very least deal with them. So the party goes down to the docks. They even go to this person's ship to approach and go onto it. And right as they're kind of getting to the ship to find some way onto it, or as they're even maybe on it specifically, depending on kind of what the party exactly wants to do, this huge task force of guards storms the dock with a surprise inspection. In order to sort of save face and prevent suspicion, this like enemy merchant enforcer invites the party in to basically sit and have dinner with the intent of like, we both know we're here for you know, blood, but we can't do that while the guards are here. Let's play nice. Let's just sit here, have dinner, have a conversation, talk it out a little bit while he's got his other goons, you know, 2 big thug goons, enforcer goons, a chef, you know, quote unquote, and the waiter, again, quote unquote, who are like very obviously not those things, but are just kind of playing the part. in the back there's some person with some sort of faction emblem that makes them stand out, who has like this like super nice crossbow that they've stolen from somebody else that's famous for whatever reason, and a priest, who are basically all in this room with this very elaborately dressed, hoity-toity merchant style person. They have a conversation while the guards are going in and out. And then once the guards are done with the inspection and leave, then it's like, okay, we all know why we're actually here. Let's get down to business. And then a fight starts. And maybe during the fight, the ship, gets pulled away from the docks or something like that. But otherwise, the fight happens kind of pretty straight from there. And I think that's kind of a good place to, go from there. We can sprinkle in some more details, as you go. But I think that's a pretty solid framework.
Yeah. And the one final thing that we don't have to decide now, but let's think about, I would like there to be a twist of something like a very valuable item is on board and it's not supposed to be revealed, or something that is like a little bit of a paradigm shift that is having to do with the cargo or whatever. And so we don't have to figure out that now, but I think that would be cool to have sort of a hierarching plot where it's like, oh, the tension just ratcheted up because there's a blah, blah, blah in the cargo, and if we can go grab it, or you know what I mean? Like something like that.
The chest in the corner gets knocked over during the fight, and like official the king's coins spill out from it. It's like, why do you have the king's diamonds and officially stamped coins or whatever, whatever it is. Something, like that, I think would be cool.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I think we can call that an encounter.
Love it. So awesome. So then, James, is there anything else you wanted to
add? Two small things. One, that twist likely couldn't be anything that the inspection would have found. You know what I mean? So I think there's still plenty to do there, but you know what I mean? Like that's the one thing, is it might be a cool place to leave an opening for the world story, right? Where they have the thing you thought so-and-so had, kind of thing. The second one was when you said Raleigh, I definitely thought it was spelled like North Carolina, not like Raleigh.
I did. No, I did. I did spell it that way. And then that's how I originally spelled it.
And that's what I thought, because that's what Raleigh, I just saw that and I thought it was very funny. That I saw it and it gave me a little laugh.
Because I wanted to remember that it wasn't... I just wanted to make sure I didn't say Riley at any point.
And that was it. Yeah, it was just funny that between the expectation, that was all that just made me laugh.
Sure.
It wasn't actually a critique.
I was like, yep, Raleigh. But cool. Well then, I guess I'll end it with an actual ending, like an ending to the video.
Yep, do a wrap up.
So that is us making an encounter, pretty much improv, with a lot of just, feeling it out. And so what we're going to do is, I guess I don't have a problem making the notes available. I don't know how clean we'll make them, but it's like, you can, use them if you want. We'll maybe put those on the Tabletop Terrors website or on a Google Doc in the description, or both. If you didn't see the Quick Tips video, it will be linked in the end here. When, if you want to see how we ended up presenting the encounter for use at your table, or have all this information abbreviated so you don't have to listen to how we, made the sausage, as it were. So we're Tabletop Terrors. We're all about this kind of stuff right here. Just having fun, being creative, and tabletop games. If you like that, consider subscribing. In terms of the comments, put anything you want. What do we miss? What are your ideas? How are you going to run this? What should we change? Like, whatever you want. Carte blanche. And I guess we'll end with the Tabtarian toast.
May you mend the first break.
May you kill the first snake.
May you conquer everything you undertake.
Sláinte. So, I want to run this now. Now I'm like, where would this fit in Dragon Grin? Like I'm trying to think of and it feels very Sphere Below Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, that is just so right there. But then I want to set it in. So I don't know. I want to run this, and I think I might run it in Dragon Grin. And that might be an interesting thing to just do a quick one shot. It's basically just an encounter. But how fun would that be to just see how it actually turns out? And then people can see an example of what happens and so on. So I don't know. Maybe that'd be interesting. But I'm curious to see if anyone else runs it as well. Because we have a really awesome community who, uses the stuff that we make. So I think that would be really cool too, to see it skinned as other stuff like Harbinger. Like, how cool would it be if this was all just pure sci-fi and now it's like this spaceport and it's same deal, anyway, interesting.
I'm also curious to see how many people go the Han Solo route, and the moment they walk in the door, start the fight, and you don't get the cool dinner scene because they literally don't give time for the guards to show up. They just go in guns blazing.
One way to make that happen is that if the players go in, the guards are already there. So consider that if your players are super trigger happy, the guards just arrived and they turn and look at you and you have to figure out why you're there. And it's like, he says, "Oh, you're here to join me for dinner."
Yeah, Darth Vader just uses his special powers to make them, I think. So that's another way to do it.
I love it.